What up, Pod Squad? Welcome back to another edition of the Victorious POD. We are coming at you semi-live recording for the first time ever, so you get to or have to see our faces depending on how you look at things. But yeah, it's been about a month and a half since our last recording, and a lot of stuff has happened since then. I know we did kind of the post Super Bowl hangover reactions, but now we've got free agency coming at you, draft season's coming up shortly, and tons of stuff to talk about. But before we get into all that, I will toss it to my co-host Tyler.
What's up, Jackaroo? I think this is what, like ninth time's the charm as far as us getting the kinks worked out on the front end.
God, I hope so.
Who knows if this is actually going to work, but it should be fun. I mean, video is something that we always kind of wanted to progress to. Gives us the opportunity to do more YouTube stuff, YouTube shorts, so you don't have to listen to us babble for an hour and a half. We can cut it up and you can get little snippets. So should be fun.
Yeah, we're hoping. We're trying to bring you guys new content, and if it works, great stuff. If it doesn't, you'll never hear us talk about it again. So we're fingers crossed here. I will leave all the description stuff in the show notes below so we don't spend time covering all the things that everybody already knows because they're such huge fans. So before I get into some like specifics with NFL news and free agency stuff, have you been keeping up with things in the off season, or how are you feeling in the non-season mode stuff?
I'm definitely in off-season mode. So I've followed all the big ones like as NFL free agency started. So I know where all the big names landed. Anything like non-position player, anything non-fantasy relevant, I certainly didn't follow where all the corners and D tackles went. So yeah. Vikings related, I'm probably slacking in that fan department. So I'll leave that to you. But certainly all the big names, I got a good idea and some opinions on how they'll do with their new team. So yeah, we'll take a look.
Lovely. Well, let's just jump right into stuff. So there's several. I only included fantasy relevant guys because we're a fantasy show. We're not going to be talking about how this left guard is going to be a huge signing coming in. So I also, because there's a lot, we're not going to spend a ton of time on each one. And I know I've said that before, and we end up spending 5 minutes going down the rabbit hole of a team's backup quarterback's favorite breakfast meal. But we're really going to keep it short today. Maybe like 1 point or something on just how their situation changed, or maybe how it's going to affect other players and fantasy relevance on the team. So I'll just kind of toss them out. I'll let you give your initial thoughts for the people, and then I'll just kind of fill in blanks if there's anything to add. So we're going to go semi in order of relevancy and position. I'm just going to start with the quarterbacks. So first one, Derek Carr to the Saints, which we both actually called on the last episode we did. So most logical fitting for a team to land him, but how are you feeling on him or his other weapons on the team?
No, sounds good. I think it's certainly helpful for Olave as well. It's going to be great for him. I mean, Carr tends to have kind of that one person that he goes to, and oddly enough, I think Michael Thomas restructuring and coming back to the Saints is certainly going to be helpful and take a little bit of that pressure off as well. So again, we'll talk about it in a second, but Jamaal Williams signing as well. I mean, the backfield, you got to respect both of those. So I like it. I think it's a great fit for Derek Carr. He's going to have plenty to work with.
Yeah, I like that. I've always been a Carr fan in terms of like liking him more than the league or the fans seem to. So I was excited for that. I'm very surprised that Jameis, his backup now, didn't end up as a starting quarterback anywhere, but I like the fit for Carr. So we'll pivot here. Let's just go right into Jamaal, his teammate. Jamaal Williams kind of surprised signing for the Saints on a 3-year deal. Do you envision him being the guy, kind of like he stole Swift's spot with Kamara, or what do you think happens?
No, not quite. I think it's certainly going to be much more committee based than what Kamara is used to. But on top of that, if you think about it, like when him and Mark Ingram were there, Ingram still dispelled him on plenty of drives. It's not like it was a 80-20 split and Ingram only got goal line. He got plenty of stuff as well. So Jamaal Williams has certainly proven himself, if nothing else. This massively hurts Kamara. He already wasn't great at the goal line, and now he's not getting any of it. So I think Alvin Kamara falls way down draft boards. I don't even know that he's a second-round pick.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I wouldn't necessarily be like you said, it hurts Kamara more than it helps Jamaal. I think I would have seen Jamaal rise up draft boards if he stayed with the Lions next year, but based on this, I think I wouldn't really be targeting him anywhere. I know we're a long ways off from draft season, but maybe best ball as the only spot, just because he's going to have those weeks where he gets the touchdowns. But yeah, I don't love the fit for him. I was bummed because I know he wanted to go back to Detroit, so it's more interesting, especially if Kamara gets suspended. I think there can be some like early season value, but yeah, I don't really know what's going to come out of that backfield that's like super consistent. So
yeah. I'm probably just gonna avoid it,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah, agreed. Another quarterback, I wouldn't say big quarterback news, but Jimmy G ends up going to the Raiders to replace Derek Carr. How do you feel about not Jimmy G because he's not fantasy relevant ever, but
Yeah.
does it hurt Davante's fantasy value or?
Um, I don't really know, and I don't know that any of us really know because Jimmy G they played him so much into the system of just get it out of my hands and get it to my playmakers or to swing it to somebody out of the backfield. I'm curious. I didn't watch enough of him playing with the Patriots to know how good his arm is with the deep ball. But again, Davante is very good at the line of scrimmage. We saw plenty where Rodgers would just sling it out to him and let the big man do his thing. So I don't think it really hurts him at all. And again, I know it's elsewhere down the list, but Jakobi Meyers is going to be helpful to Davante as well to take some of that pressure off. I think they got two legitimate guys. I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think maybe it helps his like PPR value while taking like the
Sure.
top off of him. Like he's not going to have those big blow up games as much because I don't think Jimmy G's as good of a deep passing guy as Carr was. But that's
Sure.
you're splitting hairs. I'm sure he's still a wide receiver one, and it's Davante, so it's hard not to
Right.
love him. So
Right.
um, going off again, we'll just kind of keep teammates together. But Jakobi Meyers, are you more interested in him fantasy wise? Less? Like, is he anything?
I'm more interested. I would not be surprised to see him finish as even a wide receiver too.
Mm,
I think he played really well with the Patriots, and think how much they ran the ball with Mac Jones, and they're going to continue to do that. And Jacoby Myers continued to put up numbers, so I think he's going to be better than a lot of people think. I think you're going to get him at wide receiver 3 or 4 value even, and I could see him sneak into that backside of that top 24 to 30 range. I would not be surprised.
that is interesting. I was not leaning that direction, so I would probably be on the side of just being out of him because wasn't exciting in New England. But again, maybe it'll be more a high passing offense. I view Mac Jones and Jimmy G as very similar players, so I don't know that
Sure.
excites me. But I do think Jacoby and his skill set are very very good. So we'll see.
Yeah. Agreed.
Um, Baker Mayfield is the heir apparent to Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, which is a disgusting statement.
Yeah. Gross.
Um, is it enough for you to be out on the Buccaneers playmakers? Like, are you fading Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, anybody else?
No, I think you're going to know so much more after the draft, honestly, because I would not be surprised to see them address quarterback. Not that they're going to get a potentially top tier guy, but you never really know. I don't know that I'm fading them,
Okay.
but I don't know that I'm targeting them. I think they're probably going to go right at value, maybe
Yeah,
even potentially a little undervalued. But big body like Evans, throw it up to him in the end zone, he's going to go get it. Godwin, PPR monster, still works over the middle of the field. No matter who signs, he's still a safety valve.
yeah,
So I don't know that they're good. You obviously have to downgrade them, not playing with Tom Brady. But I think that whatever ADP they end up at, I think their quarterback situation will be baked in.
okay, that's fair. I like that. I think maybe it makes me still lean Godwin a little bit more, just because with a bad quarterback, I think
Between the two, I
yeah, you're
agree.
gonna find your safety valve PPR guy over the middle, but yeah, I'm not sure how to
Hmm.
feel, especially as a Godwin dynasty owner. I kind of like, I mean, I know Baker's not the long
Yeah.
term plan. It surprised me that they even signed him for 1 year because it's like, are the Bucs just going to blow up
Hmm.
their offense? Like, does it make sense to keep Evans and Godwin on relatively expensive contract deals? I just don't know where the team's going. Like, they already cut Fournette. They don't really have
Yep.
any relevant tight end going on.
Hmm.
It's kind of a lot of question marks, so I don't know how to feel. But
Yeah. Agreed.
moving more into the running back side, Miles Sanders probably the biggest name coming out of
Hmm.
last season after he had his career year with the Eagles. He signs with the Panthers, which I didn't really see coming. Do you think that
I
that's
didn't
the
either.
best landing spot for him? You're the resident Panthers fan now, moving out to Carolina. So
Probably. I think they've shown a commitment to the run in the past. Granted, you had this guy named CMC in the backfield, so it's easy to commit to the run. But on top of that, in NFL history, the best way to assimilate a rookie quarterback into the NFL is to have a rushing game to help with
mhm,
that. Now, granted, I don't know how we're going to see because they don't really have a potential passing game now that they got rid of DJ
yeah,
Moore. So we'll really see. But I think having Miles Sanders there will help whatever quarterback they decide to
yeah,
go with.
and
I assume Stroud.
And he's a better receiving, talking about Sanders, a better receiving back than I think people like realize. He wasn't utilized that way a lot, but he catches most of his passes. So I think that could be a good thing, kind of like that dump off for whatever the rookie is. I think that could help. So I traded away Miles Sanders on the back of him being a free agent. And even though I got my value for him, I would be lying if I said I wasn't upset that he went to a good fantasy situation. So I was hoping he wouldn't, but this is perfect for him. And it basically kicked out Deonta Foreman, who we'll slide into, who went to the Bears after a great season in Carolina. He also was kind of like Jamaal Williams. He wanted to come back, and they were just like, yeah, we're good. So with Foreman going to the Bears, obviously they moved on from Montgomery, who we'll talk about in a second. But Deonta Foreman, Khalil Herbert, how are you? What?
I don't know. This is probably again going to be one I'm just going to avoid. If nothing else, I'm just going to put because of Justin Fields. I think he's going to take enough of that potential rushing side that there's already going to be a committee. We'll see what happens with DJ Moore and actually having a weapon. We'll see if they decide to throw more and really integrate him into the offense. They seem to really like Khalil Herbert, and he can do a lot of the receiving work as well. Even if they didn't really super utilize him that way, but I think it's kind of just going to be an avoid for me. I think Khalil Herbert though is going to have more fantasy value than Deonta.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if they end up having that draft cost baked in, I could see them both going like double-digit rounds late because A, they're not good. B, the Bears' offense isn't great, line-wise. So if I had a dart throw, I'd probably go Herbert just because I think they like him more. But that makes me sad because I like Deonta Foreman. So it's,
yeah, fair enough.
Going into the guy that basically got kicked out of town for them, David Montgomery, he kind of out of nowhere ended up signing with the Lions, replacing Jamaal Williams. There's this whole connected just circle. It's weird, but
it's weird.
How do you feel about him and or Swift? Obviously, this doesn't help Swift, but like, what is the result?
I cannot believe the absolute utter disdain for DeAndre Swift. The Lions hate him. They just refused to make him the bell cow. I don't understand. I get he's had some injuries and things like that, but they've been kind of fluky. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think they signed David Montgomery to be a dispel Swift on some on some series. Like I don't understand. I have no clue how to value either of them. I haven't paid. This might be the resident Foster. He knows so much about David Montgomery. I've never had him on any of my teams. I know he's a good player, but again, it feels so ridiculous. Like so many of these, I'm like, I'm just going to avoid it because it feels so ugly.
Yeah.
It seems
like that's what's happening with running backs more and more in this day and age. Like there were about a third of the spots, like fantasy relevant spots available for the number of guys that they had. And this isn't even talking about the rookies yet. Like there's just not. So it's turning into all these two-headed like committees and just not great situations. The thing that breaks my heart and makes it crazy to me is that David Montgomery signed a 3-year contract for almost exactly the same amount of money as Jamaal Williams' 3-year contract with the Saints. So it's like you could have just kept the guy that already knew the system, did well, and was like the heart of your locker room. And you're like, now we're going to move on from him. We're going to take this guy. Yeah, I'm just like, that made no sense to me. But I think for me, the limited that I know about Montgomery, he's not like super high end. He's very like low efficiency in terms of like 3 to 4 yards. He's always at a low average, but he's like more of a bruiser, less of a receiving guy. He seems very much to me of like what Jamaal Williams was. So it makes sense in terms of the scheme fit. Based on that, I think I'm assuming when we come to draft season that Swift will still be the higher drafted of the two, unless the team comes out and is like, Montgomery's the guy. But I think that Montgomery will end up taking the value more because I think he's going to be the receiver, the red zone guy. So I think he'll get like all those crazy touchdowns that Jamaal did. So at this point, until we learn more, I would be very, very high on getting him for redraft leagues next year. So
yeah, totally fair.
A couple more running backs we haven't talked about yet. Rashaad to the Eagles. What do you think?
Oh, I love this.
So happy.
I feel like Rashaad Penny, if this man knows how to stay healthy, he would be a ridiculously good running back. And it's not like it's not like he was injury prone. Like if I remember correctly, he wasn't really injury prone coming out of college. I don't think so. He just kind of had these weird fluky injuries. But this man knows how to make people miss. The yards per carry, I can't.
He's like top 3 in the last like three years total.
for sure. I think within the last like year, he was top one by like almost a full yard per carry or something ridiculous. Like if he's in the game, he's doing incredibly
Yeah.
well. So I think that's an awesome fit. I mean, obviously they continue to have so many individuals there. Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, blah blah blah. But Rashaad Penny is way better than both of those two. There's no question. And they obviously even fed Miles Sanders when all three of them were there. Granted, again, those other two spelled them a little bit, but Rashaad Penny's healthy. I think that's a phenomenal fit.
Yeah, I think if he's assuming he stays healthy and they don't go and draft like a high end running back, he has like low running back one upside, like high two, low one, just because of being in that offense. Like if he was the one in a different offense, great, but like you're going to the Eagles, that's prolific and they have so many other weapons to worry about that like he would be, I mean, he was one of my targets last year in redraft and I have him in Dynasty too. I paid like a 2025 third rounder for him just on the off chance that he went somewhere. And this happened and I'm like, please God, don't sign anybody. Don't sign like a Kareem Hunt next week. Don't draft Bijan at the end of the first. Like just let Penny have a chance and stay healthy and see what happens. So let's see. Last couple here. Samaje Perine went to the Bucs, or to the Broncos, excuse me. With him leaving, there's still the question mark. I know Mixon's under contract. People have talked about him being a cut casualty. Is this meaning Mixon stays? Does this just mean they might move on from both? And what happens there? And then also is Perine like a viable option while Javonte's out in Denver?
Yeah, good. That's a tough one for me. I really don't know how Cincy's going to handle it. I mean, I would not be surprised for them to take a running back in the draft, and that would tell you a lot. I'm sure my gut would say Mixon resigns, but again, I have no inkling as to why. Yeah. I just feel like if you're going to let Perine walk, then you're probably going to keep Mixon and maybe draft a running back, maybe not one of the top end guys, but if you get a day 2, day 3 guy, whatever, somebody that fits within your scheme, great. But my guess is Mixon stays, and I'll be really curious to see what they do in the draft. Because if they get a rookie running back in one of the top 2, hell yeah, I'm waiting for that. It'd be awesome. Perine wise in Denver, I'm very curious to see how they use him. If they use him in that receiving capacity that he did with the Bengals, that's perfect for Russ. It's kind of what they need. He's great while Javonte's still kind of healing. So I think he'll do relatively well. I don't think he's going to be like start worthy every single week or anything like that. I think he's going to be exactly what he was on the Bengals.
Yep. The perfect fill-in, basically, when your guy's out.
Perfect fill-in.
That signing to me made me feel better as a Javonte Williams owner because it's like he's good enough where you don't need another guy brought in, but he's not good enough where anybody's going to question whether he fights off Javonte when he returns. So for me, I'm like, good, hold the spot, just be a placeholder until he's ready, and then we're good to go. So it shows the team still believes in Javonte. I know there's reports out of him not being close to ready, so I don't know if it's going to end up being like mid-season or what, but yeah, that's kind of more of what it tells me instead. So, cool. Running backs we're moving on from. We're going to go into receivers here. Elijah Moore, traded to the Browns, finally gets out of his purgatory. Does this, I know his value went from like breakout rookie wide receiver to useless. Like, does this make him worth something again? Do you feel anything about the Browns with this addition?
I don't know that it changes him much. I think it brings him up a little bit, just from a simple upgrade in quarterback. Because I mean, again, the Jets still don't have Aaron Rodgers, so you never, who knows like what that was going to be. Elijah Moore wanted out, and sometimes there's been many individuals in the NFL, I can't think of any just off the top of my head, but that just needed a change of scenery, and then all of a sudden blew up or got back to where they were originally being drafted for. So I don't know that it gets back to that tier of like hey, this guy is going to be phenomenal, where he had such a good breakout rookie kind of tail end of the season. But I think he certainly could be a usable like wide receiver 3, and with Deshaun Watson throwing to you, you can have those blow up games, but still a lot of mouths to feed there in Cleveland.
Yeah, that's fair. Totally fair. I think for me, like if I didn't have him, it would make me be more willing to maybe toss like a second out to get him just for the potential. I think he's I like them bringing him in. He has the skills to be good, and I think for some reason the Jets coaching staff just hated him. Like they just were not.
For
They
sure.
just weren't targeting him. Like they couldn't even get off of their first read with the quarterbacks they had there. So I think he's good
Hmm.
enough to beat out Donovan Peoples-Jones for the number 2 spot, and then with Amari getting like close to 30 now, I think like there's potential there for like in a couple of years if he fits well to turn into more. Didn't even mean
Sure.
to do that, Elijah Moore.
Ayo.
But yeah, so no,
I
I think
like it.
he goes from like garbage, like wasteland to okay, he's back on the radar, and if I could get him for something cheap, I would do it. So
Yeah.
we talked about Jakobi.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm still thinking DPJ over him.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
I could see
again,
either
I
way.
I sure could as well, but he had a great tail end of the season, DPJ. So I we'll see.
Yeah,
Again, I think those two will fight it out for the number
yeah,
2 spot, and Amari Cooper will be Amari
yeah,
Cooper.
exactly. I just think it makes it a chance where like where they're going to actually battle. Like they seem like very similar tier
Yeah.
of a player that it could
Hmm.
go either way. So
Yep.
we discussed Jakobi a little bit already. Alan Lazard to the Jets. I'm assuming there's not a whole lot of fantasy relevance there, unless for some reason Rodgers comes, and even then I feel like I'm out. I don't care. So
I am out. Yeah.
we talked about their teammate Miles Sanders earlier, but DJ Chark and Thielen both going to the Panthers. So do either of these do anything for you? Are you feeling anything at all?
Not from like a fantasy standpoint. I mean, I like DJ Chark as a player. I liked him even when back on the Jaguars as well. But I feel like kind of like you noted, I feel like it just helps the rookie quarterback. I feel like it gives you stable veterans who understand how to get open in space, and they're going to give him uh, easy throws to make, work back to the ball. So I think they're good Panthers signings for NFL
Yeah.
players that are going to help your incoming
Yeah,
rookie.
I kind of feel the same thing. I think they're both not really the guy, so to speak, but at least they like
Yeah,
combine to form some kind of a receiving game for you. So
yeah.
that's pretty much it. Um, DJ
Hmm.
Moore to the Bears. Obviously, we talked about that. Huge news. Does this change anything for
Hmm.
his value? I know it obviously helps Fields potentially continue developing, but like DJ Moore has always been that perennial like mid wide receiver too. Never has a cool blow up game. Does anything change with that?
I don't know that it does. Just because again, I think they still utilize their run game a lot. And I'm trying to think. I think he's going to be very similar to the Panthers because still think he's going to have probably the most volume. And if
Yeah.
those two hook up right away, he's going to be again kind of exactly like he was on the Panthers. Maybe a tick higher if you want to call Justin Fields a better thrower, just because again you're going to have less backside pressure and less individuals dropping in coverage because they have to account for Justin Fields or they have to play a spy, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. So you're going to have less in coverage. So maybe he's able to get open a little bit more. But TJ Moore was already getting the volume. So if he gets that same type of volume, whereas instead of Justin Fields stays in the pocket more and doesn't just hold it, take it in rush. But the Panthers didn't have that. So if they ran out of time, they just threw it to DJ
Right.
Moore. So maybe Justin Fields tucks it a few more, so he loses some of the potential targets on the year. But I think he's going to be very similar to how he was in
Yeah,
Carolina.
I would totally agree. Last couple, not super exciting signings, but Brandon Cooks to the Cowboys. Juju ends up going to the Patriots along with Mike Gesicki, his
Wow.
new teammate. Yeah, is anything there exciting out of those
No.
three? Nah, perfect. Last couple ones, one that's a more of an exciting one and one that's more haha to me. But Darren Waller gets traded to
Mm.
the Giants. That was kind of a surprising news. So going from the Raiders to the Giants, do you see this as a positive or a negative for his fantasy value or just nothing?
I think it's actually an extreme positive.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's an extreme positive for his value. And again, this is just a man who needs to stay healthy. He was 1 or 2 years of the most dominant tight end. Like the people were like, he's the number one tight
Mhm.
end in the NFL. It's crazy. So I think this really really helps his value. And if Daniel Jones continues to develop and do some of the things he did at the tail end of the season and in the playoffs, I think it is great for
Yeah,
him.
I totally agree. I think that's a team and a quarterback that they just gave him all this money, made him the extended guy. So I think it's a quarterback that can rely on just like a safety blanket, reliable option. And the Giants never ever have any receiving options as is. So I think bringing him
Right.
in there is like he's going to be the guy. There's not going to be anybody else that's really going to rival for for targets there. So especially getting out of the Raiders, who they brought in Jakobi. I don't know if they would have done that if they also had Waller, but the fact that they had Jimmy G in there too, I like the change of scenery because I actually think Daniel Jones is a better quarterback than Jimmy G, and I think that the offense will run through him versus him taking the backseat to Davante. So last one, Dalton Schultz, tight end, goes to the Texans. He bet on himself on the franchise tag with Dallas, turned down like a 3-year contract, and nobody wanted him. So I said this a couple episodes ago, but I was like, if he doesn't end up back with Dallas, he's going to be that Austin Hooper repeat where like he had one great year and then gets signed by some mediocre team and nothing happens. So if you didn't hear me before, we were saying to move off of him in Dynasty, but I'm not hopeful, if you can tell.
No, I like Dalton Schultz. I think he's a good tight end. I think he's a top 7 tight end.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think something like that. But again, you're going it out. You're going to rush out and get the top 7 tight end who's about to go to the Texans with a rookie quarterback.
Right.
Like they're going to get a rookie quarterback. Their 12th pick, they're probably going to get a rookie wide receiver. Those two are going to come in, try to be on the same page. Both rookies trying to make it in the NFL together. Again, total hearsay by me with them taking a wide receiver with their 12th pick, but it would make sense for them to pair whatever long-term quarterback they get with a new rookie wide receiver as well. Both come into the league at the same time and build that future. And so a lot of times, again, like we talked about with a run game with rookies, what else do? You leave your tight end as an inline blocker to help make that, to help. So I would not be surprised to see him have more blocking routes. And don't get me wrong, Dalton Schultz is really athletic for a tight end. So maybe he's going to be okay, but I'm not rushing out to get him because he went to the Texans.
Like you said, even if you're a solid or a good tight end, I feel like unless you're one of the elite guys, it all just comes down to situation. Whereas like receivers can make themselves 100%. Good on bad teams. Tight ends, it's like you could be the number 4 tight end in the league, but if the top 3 are here and you're down here, it's like it really doesn't matter if you're not on a good team, unfortunately. So I don't care pretty much. And like I'd be taking like the Darren Waller who just went to a new situation over him, or a handful of other guys based on this, because we don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. So
right, I'm taking Hawkinson over him, Goddard over him for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, we did it. We got through all the big free agency guys, so we'll keep the rest of it a little bit shorter here. But I'm going to run through more of the Vikings because we're the hometown heroes here. I'm going to run through all of the Vikings additions this offseason, and I know like you kind of mentioned we're not following every single one, but I'll let you kind of talk about if you have a favorite or if you have any reaction out of this whole list. We don't have to cover most of them. And while you do that, I'm going to go get a phone charger before we lose all of this. So running through the list, Byron Murphy, corner, we kind of signed out of nowhere. Marcus Davenport, a defensive end. He was the number 14 pick in the 2018 draft. He's kind of had some not meeting expectations since then, but there's potential. Re-signed Alexander Madison, huge wide receiver signing. Brandon Powell from the Rams. Signed a defensive tackle from the Packers for the last 3 years. Re-signed Greg Joseph. Re-signed Garrett Bradbury, our center. Re-signed backup quarterback Nick Mullins. We went out and signed Josh Oliver, who's everybody's talking about as the best blocking tight end in the league. Re-signed CJ Ham as a fullback, and then Harrison Smith, pretty much the only restructure, coming back as our free safety. So I'll let you give 2 cents, and I'll be right back.
No, I like it. And again, I haven't followed it too terribly much, but obviously we had to bolster the defensive line. We had to get so much better at getting to the quarterback. Our defense was pretty brutal last year, and it obviously showed as we got into the tail end of the season in the playoffs. Obviously getting Mattinson back is massive, especially with the potential of Dalvin Cook moving on relatively soon, especially with him kind of declining to restructure his salary. So I think it'd be really, really interesting. Some of the other ones too, CJ Ham is kind of in one of those unheralded individuals, even though it's a fullback position. Those kind of fullbacks, like the Kyle Juszczyks of the world, can be incredibly helpful to a team. He tends to get a couple touchdowns a year. So Harrison Smith restructuring is awesome. Again, just kind of shows he wants to stay, which is fantastic. Obviously, like we said, can't be said for the Dalvin Cooks of the world. So biggest one, obviously, probably Mattinson, Marcus Davenport to bolster the line, and I like the Byron Murphy one as well. So those would probably be my top three, and the rest are just kind of nice depth additions. I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think Byron Murphy's going to be the biggest impact. I mean, he's got a potential to be
Yeah.
a Pro Bowler for us in a position that we're just terrible in. So I love that.
Facts.
Davenport to me feels very much like the plan is to basically just have him walk in and replace Zadarius Smith as the edge rusher. So
Right.
I mean, that's kind of a 1-for-1 swap. I don't know that I would have re-signed Greg Joseph because he made all these clutch kicks, but he missed a lot of easy kicks, so that doesn't feel great. All the other ones I love. I think when all the Vikings fans were waiting for the Vikings to go make moves, and our first move was giving like a 3-year, $21 million contract to Josh Oliver, everyone was like, what in God's name are they doing?
Yeah.
But I really, really like the move for like what our scheme could be. Like everyone's saying, you got to go get that wide receiver 3 option now that we lost Thielen. It's like, what if we just do Jefferson and KJ and then run a 2 tight end set? Like, or we use that to help with more of our run game, whatever. So that interests me. I think Madison will be my MVP signing or like re-signing out of this group if we figure out what the hell we're doing with Dalvin Cook. If we just keep Cook and he's there for another year or two before we let him walk or whatever, then I feel like that's a waste to sign Madison for 3 years. Like it only makes sense if you're going to let Madison be the guy for the next 2 to 3. So I want to know what's happening there.
Agreed. It'd be interesting.
Yeah. And then key losses, just a few. I'll run through if you have any thoughts. Cool. If not, yeah. Duke Shelley, the corner that came out of nowhere to be every fan's favorite. Adam Thielen, obviously, we talked about as a wide receiver. Eric Kendricks, linebacker for years and years, was a Pro Bowler, perennial year after year. Patrick Peterson came in for 2 years and did great. Seemed like he liked being here. Cam Dantzler, I was surprised, another corner that left. And then Delvin Tomlinson, who we figured would leave defensive tackle. So nothing fantasy really because Thielen wasn't fantasy relevant. But anything out of this list reactions-wise?
I mean, obviously it hurts to lose Kendricks, and like you said, Patrick Peterson's been playing really well. I think we found his previous self coming here after being in Arizona for so long and played incredibly well. So kind of hard to lose those two, but I mean, nothing terribly impactful, nothing that I don't think we can like live without. I think they'll be replaceable.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like it's weird seeing such a big shift of like some of our defensive captains or like mainstays for the longest time, but like there's a reason we were like bottom 5 in defense. So they seem great, but like maybe just stuff wasn't working. So I'm all in it if Brian Flores continues to just go get his own guys and find pieces that work. I'm going to try to trust in the process here and hope it makes sense. So that's all I got for the Vikings stuff. So we can slide into some general fantasy talk, which I've got a few things added in, and there's actually some fan interaction. So despite the long gap we had, as always, if you guys have any thoughts, if you have any hot takes or questions you want to hear us debate or discuss, or just whatever you want to do, toss it out to us via text, Discord, put it on our YouTube videos now that we have that going, whatever you want to do. But this one comes in from Mac, who's one of our co-league members in our Dynasty League running. So he just had a couple of hot takes and then just a quick question, but we already talked about it a little bit. But Thielen to the Panthers, he basically was just like, I mean, it's cool seeing him get another contract, but the dude was basically over the hill the last couple of years.
Yeah,
I don't see him doing anything fantasy relevant. And he goes, whoever they sign next is probably going to be more important. I probably agree with that. I think DJ Chark is probably going to have a better chance to do stuff. So
agreed.
And then he talked about Damian Harris and Devin Singletary, who we didn't address above, but Damian Harris ended up going to the Bills, which was kind of surprising. And then Singletary went to the Texans, who I thought they believed more in Dameon Pierce, but go figure. He was basically like, long story short, I don't care about either of these two signings, but I am more interested to see if it affects Josh Allen maybe not doing quite as many goal line carries because Damian Harris is better in that situation. So I don't know. I don't think it moves the needle a whole lot either way. So
no, I don't think so either. I'm so curious to see what the Damian Harris to the Bills does for James Cook.
Yeah,
because everyone is like, "Hey, perfect, everybody left. Like, James Cook's not going to get the reins," and then they signed Damian Harris, and they're like, "The fuck?
Yeah,
like I thought we were good. Like, what happened? I thought we were going to turn the reins over." And so maybe they might be a good 1-2 punch, and similar with Ramondre Stevenson, kind of like he was. Damian Harris kind of took that back seat, so maybe they do kind of give the reins more so to James Cook. He played really well last season when he did get to play and show that he was kind of the guy. So Damian Harris is going to take some time. Josh Allen's always going to take some of those rushing attempts. So I don't think Damien Harris is terribly relevant
No.
to any of this. But I'm really curious to see how it affects James.
Yeah, that's a good take. I feel like for me, if you put Damian Harris and Devin Singletary in each other's uniforms, I wouldn't know the difference. I feel like they play the exact same way.
100%.
So I don't really know
100%.
that this like changes much as far as like a better or a worse player coming in. But yeah, my hope is that they continue to kind of like, this is just a veteran guy to kind of like be a placeholder and help as they shift more to James Cook. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
And then last part, his quick question was, this was like 2 weeks ago and it still hasn't gone through yet, but any thoughts on a presumptive Jordan Love-led Packers team? Fantasy or otherwise.
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm very curious to see how it goes for them and if the team's willing to rally around him, if they were just sick of Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything that I've heard in the whole world, I mean, obviously Aaron Rodgers has been there for 462 years. Like, but from all I heard is he's a dick. Like, that's all I've heard.
That's all I've seen. That's all I've got my own opinion on. Yeah.
That's all I've heard. So I'm like, do they rally around Jordan Love?
I could see that, yeah.
They picked him in the first round. It's not like he was some third or fourth round and they're finally turning him over. Like, he was a first round pick and they're finally likely handing over the reins. So I'm curious. Obviously, you're going to take a step back from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, but is it going to be that far of a step back? I really don't think
Compared to last year, probably not. Compared to previous years, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But he's looked so bad every time he's come in and played, but other than like one game. But I don't know what to expect. I wouldn't be touching any
I don't either.
Packers receiver. Like I think Christian Watson, after a cool breakout year, I don't know that I'm excited to draft him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm maybe more optimistic about Jones and Dillon because I think they'll just turn into a running game and they get a ton of volume. But yeah, it's not something I'm excited about fantasy wise. I'm just excited to get him as far away from our division as possible because I'm sick of hearing about him, even when he plays badly. Even when we beat him, I'm like, I just don't want to see your smarky clips in the post-game press conference. Like it just, and cut your mullet and gross hair and stuff, that too. So, all right, moving into kind of part skip it or ship it, part dynasty download, part Jack just throws things in here and makes up whatever for his segment. So I got a couple questions for you, and then I made up a game over the past month because I was really bored, so bear with me. But first question, I was going to do this about free agency because there's a lot of more moving parts, but we're talking like of our dynasty league or teams. Selfishly, what is one thing that you want to see happen for your dynasty team in the upcoming rookie draft? So it could obviously be like, I want this player to go to this team, or it could be just, please, for the love of God, I have Joe Mixon and I don't want the Bengals to draft a running back. Like whatever it is.
Yeah. Mine is very simple because I have the 1.1 pick in my 2 dynasty leagues, one by trade and one because I tanked and wanted to make sure I have it. And because I made a good trade. So I actually have 1.1 and 2 in one of them. So give me some good rookie landing spots. Give me a Bijan Robinson to the freaking Cowboys. Give me him to the Bengals. I know, again, with them tagging Pollard and blah, 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 we'll see what that looks like. So maybe not so as much. But he would love to play in Texas. He played for Texas and blah, blah, blah. He's always like, that's my dream scenario. I'm really, really curious to see where Jahmyr Gibbs goes as well. And same with Jackson Smith.
In Jigba,
or however the hell he is. Yeah. So I'm curious to see where those. My guess is he lands with like the Texans as well. But just give me some good rookie landing spots because I have the top picks.
Yeah.
So just give me something good. Don't screw me.
I will say, like, if I had 3 in mind, I would say like best landing spots would be, and this is off the top of my head, I'm sure there's better ones, but the Bengals, obviously, if they don't bring back Mixon, or I think if they take him, that's a clear sign they're going to let him walk. Mine has been, and it made me really upset when Mostert and Jeff Wilson re-signed, but mine has been the Dolphins because I think that's a primo landing spot for a rookie running back to come in and just have weapons around him. Or with this whole whatever the heck Austin Eckler's doing, if the Chargers end up going in for they've got like the late 20s picks too. I think those would be very interesting if somebody of those top 3 or 4 guys landed there. I guess one of mine, kind of like yours, I have the 102, and I just want some goddamn clarity between who I should take out of Gibbs and JSN. I'm assuming I honestly want one of them to go to a terrible situation so that I'm like, I can't take them. I have to take the other guy. So Right now, I could
Yeah.
go either way, and I don't desperately need one. I probably need running back more, but I'm like, JSN seems like he's supposed to be better. So if Gibbs goes to like a terrible spot, like if he goes to like San Francisco and like Kyle Shanahan running back
Yeah.
purgatory, then I can be like, oh, good, bye. Like that's it. So beyond that, the
For
only other
sure.
part I would say, which I kind of talked about earlier, is just if the Eagles come out of the like day one and day two without having taken a running back, I'll be so excited for Rashaad Penny, and I think that'll be like the best value
Yes.
trade in the league so far if he pans out. So those are probably the ones I'll be
For sure.
watching for. I don't have a whole lot of like time and like scouting invested into the receiver spot. It's been a lot more running back
No.
side. So that's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
looking. And then number two, I was thinking about this one the other day because I don't know what to expect because we're in a new Dynasty league. We just finished our first season, and about half the league hasn't played in Dynasty before. They're all very fantasy
Mm-hmm.
knowledgeable, and like I only recruited guys that like knew what they were talking about and would be committed. But
Yeah.
Dynasty wise, it's very different. So people are valuing rookie picks differently. People are like letting quarterback value affect them in a one QB league. So based on that, assuming one quarterback league, this doesn't have to be just our league specific, but this year, say a person out there is listening and they're in their own dynasty league, when do you think
Mm-hmm.
the first, between Stroud and Bryce Young, when do you think the first quarterback will or should be drafted in a rookie draft this year?
Yeah, I think it's really, like you said, kind of depends on your league. They tend to go sooner because they have name recognition and because they go 1 and 2 and 3 overall. But my caution to that is rookie quarterbacks tend to take time to develop. And usually, if you're a top pick, that means you're going to a shit team. So you got to take all of these things into account. So typically, I usually see them go in the mid to back end of the first round. I would say 9, 10, 11, 12 ish, simply because by the time you get past those, the top 6 or 7 or 8, if you've done any research coming into the draft, you probably know all those names. You know the top receivers, you know the top running backs, and then after you get down to the Jalen Hyatts of the world, and you're like, who the fuck is this? Like, why would what? I'm just gonna take Stroud and have a rookie quarterback that, if he develops, I'm gonna have a QB1 forever, like for the next 15 years. So I think sometimes that name recognition plays out quicker. But for me, if I'm in a one QB league, first and foremost, and potential strategy giveaway for me, I'm not drafting any of these guys probably in the first round and a half. If I do, I'm I'm probably not taking Stroud, and I'm probably not taking Bryce, because they don't have the rushing upside. That is where the NFL is going. I'm 100% taking my risk with wherever Anthony Richardson lands, betting on Hendon Hooker to recover, and we'll see where he goes value wise because teams gonna give him time to develop. But those type of individuals I'm taking swings on rather than just saying, hey, I'm going to go get the number 1 overall pick in CJ Stroud, who's going to be a pocket passer for the next 15 years and get a chip in 10 yards rushing a game. That does nothing for me,
Right.
and that really does nothing for you in a 1 QB league.
Yeah, that's super well said. I was going to kind of say the same thing, not because we're Vikings fans and not to hate on him, but for example, if you're getting like this is assuming the rookie quarterbacks even turn into anything. There's tons of times where they're busts, a la
Right.
Zach Wilson, and that's it.
All the time.
But even if they do, and he doesn't have that rushing upside, unfortunately, in this day and age of fantasy, so he becomes a pretty solid pocket passing quarterback. Maybe he's like a Kirk Cousins. Like, great. Is that, really going to move the needle?
Right.
Do you really have no other option on your team that's any better? It's a 1 QB league, so most of us are only carrying like 2 guys anyways. So like,
Yeah.
I was going to say the same as you, where like the earliest I would look at if I really needed a quarterback would be like last third of the first round, so like 9, 10. But again, that's just like dependent on your team, where it's like,
Even then,
if you were a playoff team, if you were a contender, and somehow your running backs and receivers are both great, and you're like, I'm good, I'm not in love with any of these other guys, sure, go for it. But like, I can't imagine that you haven't either found on the waivers or on your team at least a close option to whatever they're going to turn into. Like, if you've got, I'm trying to think of other guys in that range. If you've got the Cousins, the Dak Prescotts, the Trevor Lawrences, even the Derek Carrs, like, it's good enough to be fine. I'd rather take a 50-50 shot, like less of a guarantee than a quarterback working out, but I'd rather take a swing on a running back or receiver and just see what happens.
100%.
For me, I've kind of like, the other thing I would say is if you have different draft capital, like if you got 1 pick, no, I don't want to do that. But if like coming in this year, I've got the 102, the 112, and the 203. Based on that, I might take a swing at the 12 or the 203 just because I've got
Sure.
other shots and I'm not going to feel like it's a loss. But like, it's really, really tough to use my one pick on that. So that's how I feel. I would take them later than you think you should. Because somebody, I guarantee you, somebody in our league is taking a quarterback at 6 or 7. That's my prediction right now. It'll happen.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
And they might work out great. They might
every
work out great, but you probably don't need them unless it's super flex. So, all right, moving into the last part here. So I came up with a kind of idea on other shows that do this, but I'm doing a liar for Tyler segment. So I'm going to do a 2 truths and a lie. I got just ridiculous ridiculous football facts and stats. They're on my phone, so we'll see if you can still see me. I don't know if you just lost my video or not, but
I did, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. You can just hear me. It's the focus on Tyler. So I'm going to read 3 things.
That's right.
There's 2 different rounds of this. I'm going to read 3 things. One of them is completely made up, and you're just going to see if you can get it. I didn't put it in the notes because I wanted you to just guess live versus looking it up and whatever. So we're gonna see how this goes. These 3 are all crazy to me. Number 1, since he entered the league in 2020, Jerry Jeudy has never caught a touchdown while his team was ahead in the game. Just let that sit for a second. It's always been where the team didn't have the lead. Number 2, as a rookie last year, George Pickens had more 20-yard receptions than Garrett Wilson, Drake London, and Chris Olave, the presumable top 3 rookie receivers combined. So George Pickens greater than all 3 of them together. And 3, including the playoffs and preseason games, Tom Brady has thrown 783 touchdowns in his career. He has had a passing touchdown from every single distance on the NFL field from 70 yards or less. Those are the 3 facts.
Ooh.
If you need me to repeat or confirm any, let me know. But
nope, I got you. I'm trying.
Yeah, take us through the process.
I'm trying to think I'm just trying to.
The fans at home can play along too, so they can hear you. Think it through.
Yeah. Jeudy, obviously didn't score a lot of touchdowns, and they played from behind the entire year. The only thing I'm trying to think is that
it's 2 years though.
Watched. Yeah. I was like that. We watched enough games, and I was trying to think of like at the tail end of the year, the last couple games, like they were playing really well and potentially like a garbage time touchdown, whatever, like as the game was ending. And I felt like I know Sutton scored one, and I was thinking Jeudy might have scored one as well. So my gut is leaning toward that one being the lie, because I know Pickens had some crazy games and that one seems totally ridiculous in my brain if that's true. But I'm gonna say the Jeudy one is the lie, and the other 2 are true.
0 for 1 so far. The Brady one is the lie.
Okay.
So I think I looked it up previously.
I was like,
and I think it was close. Like he was missing like 68, 62, and 64. Like it was like very, very close to every single one. The preseason is what threw me off. So I was like, ooh. But yeah, no, Jeudy has never scored when his team's been ahead. So that's just crazy to me. And then George Pickens, 20+ yard receptions. He had 16 last year, and I didn't even realize he had that many catches.
I know he had
yeah.
No, he played really well. Like it's crazy, and I would be really curious because it seems like him and Pickens or him and Pickett really have that connection. But I'm like, again, I'm in on Deontay. Like he's phenomenal. He just didn't score the touchdowns. So I'll be very curious. But that one kind of surprised me, but not, because I know he had a lot of really big plays and some ridiculous catches. Yeah,
he's the jump ball guy for sure. So, all right, perfect. Okay. That one was more actual like relevant stats. This one is more just like stupid, quirky stuff. So this is not even really football related as much. All right, we're gonna try to see if you can go 1 for 2. Stat A. Jesus. Jalen Hurts' total rushing yards in his career, which I will tell you is 1898, is the exact walking distance from my house to my closest grocery store. To the foot and everything. We'll just let that sit. Number 2. Okay. Yeah, I know. I told you. You got to bear with me. Number 2. Including playoff games, current NFL comeback player of the year, Geno Smith, has thrown 11,199 passing yards in his career. That is to the week the exact number of days that I have been alive on this earth. This is all about me. So
Of course it is.
the third one is not. Third one's just I had to put this in. Number 3, Daniel Jones hasn't thrown a touchdown in a city west of Dallas, Texas, in his professional or his collegiate career, ever. Enjoy those.
You're right. Those were totally absurd.
Enjoy those stupid stats.
I like
This is
it.
what happens when I get bored at night and I get drunk and just I'm like, I'm gonna make a game.
I'm not smart enough to do the right. I'm like Jack. Just the fact of all of these that I'm like, Jack is an obvious only child just based on these things. Like
What does that even mean?
Jack turned around and you just make up your own games. Like we just went and
I am obsessed
fought
with
around with
games.
each other. Jack's like, I know that is true. That is true.
I also wasn't.
I have to reflect.
I also was too lazy. The only reason the first two were about me was I was like, I don't want to ask somebody else and have to figure out the math. Me, I can do it quick. It's fine. So
yeah.
Good luck.
I have no idea. I'm trying to think. What was how? Okay, I'm going back to the math in my head quick. What was Gino's number? Was it 1199?
11199. So
11.
So that'd be days. So for all you at home, I am
11?
29. And we're doing 365, whatever. So it's 365, 720, 1,080, 10,800 plus the 60, whatever.
That was the one just quick math in my head felt the most off. So I feel like you would have loved the steps one, and that had to be true. So like that just sounds like Jack's like, of course it is to the foot. I am Jalen Hurts. This is awesome.
I've never walked to my grocery store, I'll tell you, but if I wanted to, I could.
Yeah. So that was my initial thought, was like that middle one was off. But the first one is true and the third one is true.
We're locking it in.
Yeah.
Yay, you got one. You're right. Yeah.
Nice.
I think
I was like, because I was like 11,199. I was like, that seems too much.
I will tell you. I figured it out, and it was like within 100 days. It was surprisingly close.
Oh, really? It's close.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now, really quick.
Oh yeah.
It was.
Because what was it?
11,199, something like that. Yeah.
And that was days, right?
Yes, correct.
So like 360, 365, so it'd be like 31 and a half, 32.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, 30 and a half. 30.68, so almost.
Yeah, it was closer than I thought it would be. I basically looked.
Pretty close,
I looked up. I figured out whatever my days was, which I'm too lazy to do, and then I went through all the yardage of everybody, and I was like, "Who's the closest?" And it wasn't exact. So shocker, but yeah, I was too lazy to actually do that. So we'll see if I can ever come up with crazy stats again. But that's a patent pending new segment of Liar with Tyler. So everyone else, comment. Let us know if you got either of those rounds right.
Welcome to our first YouTube short.
Yeah. If you give Jack a month in between episodes, there's going to be some weird stuff that gets brought up. So we're moving on from this next one. We'll do that at a different show because that's going to be too long. Really quickly, we had more trades, which at this point I feel like I'm literally just trying to make trades myself so that we can talk about them on the show. But 2 trades since our last episode. So really quick, I'll let you give your thoughts. Travis Kelce was moved in our league, which is crazy, for the 106 and the 206 this year. Thoughts?
It's super interesting. I was kind of surprised that that Jordan gave up the 1.6 for Kelce. I was trying to remember his team. I was gonna look at his team and see just what his team looks like.
Swift, Chubb,
if I remember.
Komet was his tight end.
Yeah, he had Komet. So that looks really good with them with the signing. So I mean, good for him if you're willing to give up the 6. I guess it probably makes sense for his team the most. His team kind of looks fine. I mean, DeAndre Swift, I traded him Chubb. He's got Ramondre Stevenson, so and his wide receivers.
Diggs, Waddle, Olave.
He's got Diggs, he's got Waddle, Pickens, Olave. Yeah. So it probably makes sense for him to solidify a position that's going to be good for the next 2-3 years until he retires or whatever he decides to do, or maybe he'll just keep playing. So I think for him, it probably makes sense. For a lot of people, probably not, but certainly fits really well with what J-Wow was
For
looking
me, I
for.
think it's perfect because just like you said, Kelsey's going to retire in like 2 to 3 years. I think Jordan's team's going to retire in 2 to 3 years, so it's going to be perfect.
For
He's a
sure.
very win
It was
now.
certainly the all in
Yeah,
now.
so I think
It was
I
100%.
think in that context, it makes a lot of sense for him. I will say, in my
Yeah.
opinion, looking at this, I don't think the player moving Kelsey away, Connor, I don't think that was enough to give up Kelsey. I know he didn't do you as much good because your
Agreed.
team is very much the polar opposite of Jordan, but I would have dangled that for like which contender wants this the most, which contender wants to win right now, and I think you
100%.
could have gotten more for that. So would I give up
100%.
Kelsey for that much unless I was like the presumed favorite? Probably not, but like I think somebody would have. And so the 206 does nothing for me. The 106 this year kind of feels weird where
Yeah.
like there's clearly two top running backs and like 2 to 3 receivers. So I know talking with Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
he was like, if I can't move up from 106, I don't really want it because there's a drop off to me. So I don't know that I
I
don't know
agree.
that the 106 has as much value. Like it's still you're still gonna get a great player and you can get like the top tight end or top quarterback or another flex guy, whatever. But I would have wanted more for Kelsey. So that's my thought. I
Yeah.
think for Kelsey,
No, I
you're
agree.
gonna have to either do like a first and a high player, like a decent player with upside, or like 2 future firsts. Like that's what I would expect. So
Yep.
in other news, two unnamed teams traded. There was a trade for Jahan Dotson, rookie from the Commanders last year, for a 2024 first.
Yeah, I mean, feels pretty even.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see what Washington does in general
Yeah.
with the with their quarterback room, and so I don't know. Sam Howell looked pretty good. I mean, he looked okay. Is he really going to be super useful for Dotson? I mean, I don't know. It felt pretty even. I feel like Dotson has that upside in a 2024 first, and especially for an individual who's potentially contending, where it's going to be the back end. I feel like it's probably worth it if it's going to be anywhere from, if you're thinking probably playoff team. Again, obviously you're hoping it's not 7, but if I'm giving up a 9, 10, 11 in the first round, I'm probably okay with it. That works for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Looking at this on paper without knowing team context, I think it's like you said, it's pretty fair, and I would probably give the
Yep,
first to get Dotson on the upside. For me, I had so many other receivers that he was kind of expendable. Like technically, if you look at it now, he's my
for
seventh
sure.
best receiver. This offer was floated out for
Yeah,
the 2024 first for Jamison Williams, and I was like, no, because I love him. But if you're interested in a
yeah,
rookie wide receiver with upside, how about my slightly less good, but still pretty good? So I offered that, and this was also
nice.
in our league context. On paper, it looks very, very fair, but in our league context, I am banking, and this is no love against you, Connor, or no hate towards you, all love towards you, but I am banking on him not being a playoff team. And then if this is a top 6 or even potential top 3 to 4 pick, like our unofficial power
Yeah.
rankings from Nate would say, then that's very, very good. I'm getting a pick that you're not thinking about right
Mm-hmm.
now. And that's kind of what I've done all year, where it's like middle of the season, I targeted picks when everybody wanted players to contend. As soon as the league season was over and everybody wanted picks, I started moving for players. And now when people want picks, I'm
Right.
like, okay, don't pay attention to these 2024 picks, only worry about this year. And so that's something that you can do in
Yeah.
Dynasty, is try to like get the stuff that's not right in front of somebody's face. So
100%. Dynasty is very cyclical in that nature. As you get to the tail end of the season, we talked about it with actually Daniel Jones and things
yeah.
like that. Look at those individuals who are performing well in the time and are likely going to be less relevant. And don't get me wrong, obviously Daniel Jones got his bag and great and looks good, blah blah blah, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I can't remember whatever the trade was, but I'm taking whatever side wasn't Daniel Jones from the trade, from what I remember.
Yeah.
But 100%, it's cyclical. The picks increase in value until they become a person.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the NFL draft is over, that all goes
Yep.
downhill, because then you have all of the data of where they landed. Was it good? Was it crappy?
Mm-hmm.
What is training camp going to look like? What's the competition? You've already got free agencies, blah, blah, blah. So during combine, everybody wants the picks. Everybody's hyped up about it. Then get into the season. Nobody cares about future picks. They want to win their fantasy season now. Get to the tail end of the season, blah, blah, blah. Get contenders and look at individuals on playoff teams and things like that. Get those future picks, and then it goes all over again. So it's very cyclical. You just got to pay attention to when.
Yeah. It's the definition of the what's the line? A boat's a boat, but the mystery box could be anything. Well, then why don't we just take that? We'll take the box.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Picks get crazy changes in values even before we even know which rookies got drafted where. So, cool. That is it for the Dynasty Jack of all trades segment. No notable injuries because we're not in the season. We can obviously cover this more on like maybe some YouTube shorts and stuff as we get closer to the draft.
Yeah.
But have you started to look, or do you usually look each year? I know you're the betting guru. Do you do that when it comes to the draft?
Yeah, absolutely do. I've so they tend to have. I'm trying to think when, because I already made one bet. I made a long time ago. I made it in January, so I made it in tail end of the season before the end of the Super Bowl. They had a couple up when everything was coming out with the Bijan Robinson. I'll get to it in a second here, but then usually kind of take them down for a while as the offseason happens and blah blah blah, just because free agency and things like that. They're not going to put the draft up, and now they've slowly started to put them back up. And then as we get closer to the draft, they'll have way more of how many wide receivers in the first round and blah blah blah. So there's not a lot out there right now. It's pretty much who is going to go first out of the tight ends, who's going to go first out of the corners, who's going to go first, and they're all juiced so ridiculous. Like JSN is like minus 300 to be the first wide receiver drafted. Like there's no value there. Tight end is kind of a coin flip between Kincaid and
Mayer, Halloween himself,
and Mayer. Yeah, and Mayer, and I mean they're both like minus 110, so they're truly like flip a coin. I don't have a clue either. Most people aren't going to know either. You'll know more. You'll get more details as it gets closer to the draft. But you can certainly find the value in there of who's going to slide down draft boards. The biggest one that I've heard recently, and we'll see what it opens, and I'm sure, again, this is why books don't put them up until it gets closer to the draft, so they have all of the details. But it sounds like Will Levis is starting to really slide down draft boards. So it'll be really curious to see what his over-under opens at. Because, I mean, before it was like, this guy's going top 3. He might go 1. And now it's like Anthony Richardson after his combine might go 3 or 4. And Will Levis might go like 18.
Right.
Like it's so crazy. So if you can get some of those value in early and try to go contrary to what you see in reports, because that's what they're basing it off of. They're going off of insider reports and Twitter and things like that. And if you know something or you feel like, hey, there's no way this guy's going to go here, look at those individuals in those draft slots and say, hey, are these people going to potentially trade back? Who's going to trade up because they need XYZ position? Where I'm going with all this is the one bet I've made so far was they put Bijan Robinson over under draft position 16 and a half. And I'm like,
that's high.
Quarterback. I'm like running back in the first half of the first round. I don't remember the last time it really even
Saquon
happened.
Probably
Saquon, and he went 2, and that's a different world now. Like that's, to me, that was like not happening. And so it was actually, I think it was either even money or something like that. Maybe juiced a little bit to the over. And so I'm like, I'm taking the over. I don't think he's going 16 or sooner. I don't think he's going 1 through like 16 unless somebody
21 to 26.
I've seen one. Yeah, exactly. I've seen one mock to him at 16 going to the Commanders, and that was the earliest. And I was like, when they
need more
got,
stuff.
Yeah, they need.
Oh no! Don't let
that. So I was like, and that's the.
Can you imagine the Commanders drafting him and having to deal with the who just scored, Brian Robinson or Bijan Robinson?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm like, and by the way, Antonio Gibson's still there too. Like it's like it doesn't. I saw it mocked there. And I was like, please don't do that. First and foremost, that would hurt a lot. But at the same time, so hard to say right now. Like you said, I will certainly do some more stuff as we get closer. But that's usually what I'm looking for. I'm looking for like that doesn't make sense. I mean, great. He's hyped up right now. Everybody's like, Bijan, he's going to be the next whatever. And I'm like, 16 and a half though? Real NFL wise, probably not.
He can be that without being drafted 16th. Like if he gets drafted 30th, if something horrible goes wrong and he gets drafted early second 100%. Round, he can still be like a league winner. Like it's not going to affect his value. So
yeah, NFL wise, it doesn't matter. It's going to be landing spot for him in the NFL nowadays, as we've talked about with all these backfields that we're just passing on. You're not going to spend a premium on a running back that is quasi replaceable in 4 years.
Yeah, that's agreed.
Just how it
We'll,
is.
like I said, since we're probably not going to, well, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to do our next episode just before the draft for predictions or if we'll do it just after for reactions. But
Yeah.
if we do just after, we'll try to do either some like individual short videos or like Tyler and I can do an off screen, like what you were talking about with like which person gets drafted at what position first or how many offensive linemen go in the first round, blah, blah. We can do our own thing and then just
Yeah.
kind of do the results.
As those bets come up, we can hop on here
Yeah.
quick and run a quick video and I can splice it up. So should be pretty easy, but like I said, those won't go up until a week or two before the draft. So kind of look back kind of mid-April-ish here, and they'll start to come
And I'll
up.
plan on just getting drunk the night of the draft and live tweeting from our victorious Twitter and just
Yeah.
go from there with all my takes.
I
So
mean, I love draft night. I got so many random bets that it's so much fun.
yeah, that would be fun. But we could do like a hop on Discord or hop on Xbox or something and do like a
Yeah.
reactions and clip that later. So there'll be stuff. Long story short, there'll be more to come from there. Wrapping that up, I just tossing this out there. Do you want to skip a draft for this week and go from there? Or I didn't prep anything for it,
Yeah, I
so
hadn't
I
really,
didn't. And I know we
I
kind of
didn't
went long as it is, so maybe we just skip that in the off season and
We're not bad. We're at the we're good. We're at an hour and 5
oh,
minutes.
look at us. We're like almost right at the hour for once. So
Yeah, we did it.
I was lazy and didn't like consistently push out last draft's results, so I can't confirm how many votes we actually got, and I don't know that I actually posted it in the group me, so I suck, but go back and listen in comments and we can post it live then. So for now, Tyler wins because Jack dropped the ball on it. So it was our fictional characters you had a crush on, and
oh God, I was like I don't even remember what the
yeah,
topic
no,
was.
I didn't remember what this week's topic was,
I do
or this
now.
one was supposed to be. So we can do our next episode unless you want to do a draft and wing it, but we can. That's fine with me. We can do next episode.
It's 10:30.
That's why I
Tyler,
was figuring.
tie.
That's why I was tossing it out. So this is our episode to set up the next draft. So we're sorry if the only reason you come back is our stupid drafts, but we'll do that next time. It's going to be the worst parts of being an adult, which is what it was supposed to be. So then we can both actually prep for it. Because right now it just won't be as exciting. It's fun for me when we both have like the stupid top picks and then we get sniped. So I'd rather do that. Yeah, cool. We'll do that. We'll cover the draft stuff coming up next time. It'll probably be late April because I believe the draft is the 27th to the 29th of April. So maybe we'll shoot for like that following week after and then do some of our little stuff for you guys before that, like draft week. Try to do some tweets or some individual videos of each of us and just kind of thoughts as we lead up to it. So before I do some last outro stuff, is there anything you got or that you want to cover?
No, I think I'm good. It's pretty fun. We'll see how this video comes out. And like I said, now that we got video, I can take everything and start trying to be more primarily on YouTube, cut up some YouTube shorts and put more content on there just because I know you guys get notified better that way than Spotify and whatnot. And again, digestible pieces and YouTube short seems to be the way to go. So those tend to get more views than the actual long videos. So just because you can take them in quickly. So should be fun. We'll see if this even works. And we'll take it from here. And if not, gosh, I hope not. But we'll leave it at that.
I'm just going to keep drinking if that's the case. Real quick shout out to friends of the show. As always, Minnesota Sports. You guys are shutting us out every single Wednesday, so we appreciate you. Go check them out if you're a fan of Minnesota sports. Two local guys that just talk about all things. So right now they're deep into Timberwolves and Wild season, gearing up for the Twins, and they've already had some funny segments just bashing the pole ads, which I'm, as a Twins fan, always a big fan of hearing. So go check them out. And then also ADH Dads. I think they're on episode 8 right now. They've been shutting us out the last several weeks. It's just two early 30s dads that are just kind of spitballing random topics. So it's nothing sports related. It's nothing like, if you're a fan of this, you aren't going to necessarily go and follow sports stuff, but they do a lot of fun topics and just like both got 2 young kids, and it's some interesting, fun stories, and they do some good engagement over there. So check both of them out. They are both on YouTube, and Minnesota's on Facebook Live on Wednesdays. So that's them, and us, as always. I'll post the socials below, but come check us out on Discord. Now we can get you involved more on YouTube, so please leave some comments. Tell us whatever the time stamps were of our terrible takes. We can come back and cover them next week and get a little bit more interaction going on. So let us know what your free agent reactions are. If you have any wish lists for the draft coming up, if you got your Dynasty League drafts coming up, let us know how those are going. So Yeah, looking forward to it.
Sound good. Peace out, Pod Squad.
Bye.